Sermon 1: The Foundation of Faith and Purpose. All praise belongs to God. No speaker can ever fully describe His true worth. No counter can ever count His countless gifts. And no matter how hard anyone tries, no one can ever thank or obey Him as much as He truly deserves. Even the highest flights of human thought cannot measure Him, and the deepest dives of human reason can never reach Him. There are no boundaries to describe Him, no words of praise that can capture all of Him, no start date to His existence, and no end to His time. By His sheer power, He created the entire universe out of nothing. Through His deep mercy, He sent the breeze blowing across the world. And with mighty mountains and solid rocks, He anchored the trembling earth. The very first step of faith is knowing God. To know Him fully is to declare your trust in Him. To truly trust in Him is to believe that He is completely one. To believe He is one is to know that He is pure and unlike anything else. And to truly understand His purity is to realize that He does not have separate qualities attached to Him like humans do. After all, a description is always separate from the thing being described, and whatever is described is different from the description itself. So, anyone who tries to give God human-like features is comparing Him to something else. Whoever compares Him makes Him seem like two things instead of one. Whoever makes Him two is dividing Him into pieces. Whoever divides Him does not truly know Him. Whoever does not know Him tries to point at Him like an object. Whoever points at Him gives Him limits and edges. And whoever gives Him limits treats Him like something that can be counted. Whoever asks, "Where is He inside of?" assumes God is trapped inside a container. And whoever asks, "What is He standing on?" assumes there are places where God is not. He exists, but He was never born and never began. He is real, but He did not come out of nothingness. He is close to everything, yet not by standing next to it physically. He is distinct from everything, yet not by being physically separated from it. He acts and creates, but without needing physical body movements or mechanical tools. He sees all things, even when there was not a single creature around to be seen. He is completely one, so absolute that He needs no friend to keep Him company, and loses nothing when everything else is gone. The creation of the universe. God started all of creation right from the very beginning, bringing everything into existence out of pure nothingness. He did not need to pause and think. He did not have to run any experiments. He did not rely on any physical motion, and He felt no hesitation or inner struggle. He set the exact time for every single thing to exist, harmonized all their differences, gave them their unique qualities, and shaped their features, knowing every detail long before He created them, fully aware of their limits and boundaries, and understanding all their inner secrets and fine details. When the Almighty opened up the wide-open atmosphere, the vast expanse of space, and the layers of rushing air, He sent surging waters pouring through them, waters with wild, stormy waves leaping right over one another. He loaded this massive water onto roaring gusts and crashing gales, commanded them to pour it back down as rain, placed the breeze in command over the storm's power, and set strict boundaries it could not cross. The breeze blasted beneath the water, while the water surged furiously on top. Then the Almighty created a new, barren breeze. He locked it in its course, made its blast constant, amplified its fierce power, and sent it sweeping far and wide. He ordered this breeze to stir up the deep waters and whip the oceans into towering waves. The breeze churned the sea just like milk being churned into butter, driving the waves violently upward into the sky, crashing the front waves into the back and smashing the calm waters into the surging currents, until the waters swelled high and the entire surface bubbled over with thick foam. Then the Almighty lifted that foam up into the open air and the wide skies, crafting from it the 7 heavens. He set the lowest heaven like a calm, still wave, and made the highest heaven into a secure ceiling and a towering dome, standing strong without a single pillar to hold it up or a single nail to pin it together. Then he adorned the heavens with glowing stars and radiant shooting meteors, and hung within them the blazing sun and the shining moon, all resting beneath a spinning sky, a moving ceiling, and a constantly rotating cosmos. The creation of the angels. Then God opened up the vast spaces between the highest skies and filled them with many kinds of His angels. Some remain in prostration with their faces to the ground, never once looking up. Others stay bent on their knees, never rising to stand. Some stand side by side in perfect rows, never leaving their spots. Others spend all their time singing God's praises, never growing tired. Their eyes never get sleepy, their minds never slip or make mistakes, their bodies never feel weary, and forgetting things never clouds their thoughts. Among them are the trusted messengers who deliver His revelations, those who act as voices bringing His words straight to the prophets, and those who travel back and forth carrying His exact orders and laws. Others serve as protectors of His living creatures and guardians at the gates of the gardens of paradise. Among them are also mighty angels whose feet are planted firmly on the earth, while their necks stretch high into the heavens, their limbs extending out in every direction. Their shoulders match the massive pillars supporting the divine throne. Their eyes stay humbly lowered before it, their wings spread out wide underneath it, and between them and everything else hang great curtains of honor and shields of pure divine power. They never picture their Creator as a visual image. They never give Him the limited qualities of created things. They never lock Him inside any physical place. And they never try to show what He looks like through drawings or comparisons. Description of the creation of Adam. God gathered soil from all over the earth, hard ground and soft soil, sweet earth and salty dust. He soaked the clay in water until it became pure and refined, and kneaded it with moisture until it grew thick and sticky. From this clay, He sculpted a form with curves and joints, limbs and distinct parts. He let it set and harden until it dried completely, leaving it for a set time and a known duration. Then He breathed into it from His Spirit. Instantly, the shape came alive as a complete human being, blessed with a mind to guide him, intelligence he could use, limbs to serve his needs, body parts that let him move from place to place, and sharp wisdom to tell truth from lies, recognize different tastes and smells, and tell colors and living things apart. God made him a blend of clays of many colors, bonding elements, opposing forces, and contrasting qualities like warmth and coldness, softness and toughness, sorrow and joy. Then God called upon the angels to honor the promise they had made to him and carry out his command, to show their devotion to God by prostrating before Adam and respecting the honorable station God had given him. As it says in the Quran, God commanded them to prostrate before Adam, and all the angels did so, except Iblis. Arrogance held Iblis back, and evil pride took control of him. He boasted that he was superior because he was made from fire, and he looked down on a creation made of clay with total disgust. So God granted him time to live, giving him the rope to fully earn divine punishment, setting up the ultimate test of faith for humankind, and fulfilling the promise he gave to him. As reported in the Quran, God told Iblis that he was granted time until the well-known day of judgment. After that, God settled Adam in a peaceful home where he made his life sweet and secure, warning him beforehand about Iblis and his deep hatred. But Iblis grew deeply jealous of Adam living in paradise and keeping company with the pure and righteous. Little by little, Iblis turned Adam's firm belief into doubt and his strong resolve into hesitation. He replaced Adam's joy with fear and his high honor with regret. Yet God, in his infinite kindness, gave Adam the opportunity to ask for forgiveness. He taught him words filled with divine mercy, promised that he would one day return to paradise, and sent him down to the earth, a place of life's great tests, and the growing home of his future generations. God chooses his prophets. From the children of Adam, God chose prophets and took a sacred promise from them to protect his divine revelation and carry his message as a sacred trust. As time passed, many people broke their sacred trust with God. They forgot his supreme station and began setting up fake rivals alongside him. The devil led them astray from truly knowing God and pulled them far away from worshipping him. So God sent his messengers and a long line of prophets to them. They came to remind the people of the promises woven into their very creation, to bring back memory of his countless blessings, to guide them through heartfelt reminders, and to unlock the hidden treasures of deep wisdom buried within them. They also came to point out the unmistakable signs of God's supreme power all around them. The towering sky stretched out overhead, the firm earth resting beneath their feet, the food and water that keep them alive, the inevitable deaths that take their lives, the illnesses that age their bodies, and the twists of fate that strike them one after another. God never left his creation wandering without a prophet sent by him, a revealed book from heaven, an unbreakable proof, or an enduring path of clear truth. These messengers were so strong in faith that they never felt discouraged because they were few, nor did they lose heart because those who called them liars were many. Every single prophet was either a forerunner who announced the next prophet to come, or a follower who had already been foretold by the one who came before him. The Prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Ages rolled on and generations came and went. Fathers passed away and sons grew up to take their places until at last God appointed Muhammad as his final prophet. With his coming, God fulfilled his ancient promise and brought the long line of prophethood to its perfect close. Every earlier prophet had already given a sacred pledge about him. His pure, noble character was famous long before his mission began, and his birth into this world was surrounded by honor. At that time, the people of the earth were deeply divided into fighting groups. Their goals were scattered and their paths were broken. Some compared God to the things he made, some twisted his holy names, and others completely turned away from him to worship worthless things. But through Muhammad, God rescued them from their errors, and through his tireless work, he lifted them out of deep ignorance into the light of truth. When his mission was complete, God chose to bring Muhammad home to meet him. God drew him into his closest divine presence, honoring him far too much to leave him in this temporary world, and decided it was time to lift him away from this place of hardship and testing. So, God took him to himself with the highest honor and glory. May God shower his endless peace and blessings upon him and upon his pure family. The Holy Qur'an and Sunnah. The Prophet did not leave you wandering on your own. Instead, he left behind the very same guidance that all earlier prophets left for their communities. Prophets never abandoned their people in the dark without a clear, open path and a guiding light to lead the way. He gave you the book of your Creator, a guide that lays out what is allowed and what is forbidden, what is required of you, and what is left to your own choice, which new rules replace old ones, and which earlier rules have been set aside. It spells out what is purely optional and what is strictly necessary, what applies to specific situations, and what holds true for everyone, its moral lessons and vivid examples, its longer passages and its brief reminders, the verses that are crystal clear and those that are deep and mysterious. It breaks down what was once brief and shines a bright light on every hidden meaning. Inside this book, there are some teachings everyone is required to know, and other finer points that people are excused for not knowing. It also contains rules that seem mandatory according to the written text, yet the lived practice and example of the Prophet showed they had been updated. At the same time, there are things that seemed required by the Prophet's practice, yet the book gave permission to leave them aside. There are also duties that were required only for a specific season or moment, but were no longer mandatory once that time passed. In the same way, the things it forbids come in different degrees. Some are major wrongs that carry the warning of hellfire, while others are minor mistakes open to mercy and forgiveness. Finally, there are good deeds where even the smallest effort is accepted with pleasure by God, yet they always leave room for you to do so much more. Hajj. God has made it a sacred duty for you to make the pilgrimage to His holy house. It is the great gathering place and turning point of human life where people rush toward it with eager longing, just like thirsty animals or homing pigeons flocking straight to fresh spring water. God, the glorified, made this journey an open sign of human humility before His supreme greatness, and a heartfelt confession of His true majesty and honor. From all of His creation, He chose those who heard His call, answered it with ready hearts, and stood as living witnesses to the truth of His word. Those who make the journey stand in the very footsteps of His prophets. They resemble His mighty angels who encircle the divine throne, gathering every spiritual reward from worshipping Him and racing toward His promised forgiveness. God, the glorified, made His holy house a lasting symbol for Islam and a sanctuary of deep honor and reverence for everyone who turns toward it. He made the pilgrimage to it an absolute duty and established its sacred right upon you, holding you personally responsible to fulfill it. As God the glorified says in the Quran, pilgrimage to the house is a duty owed to God by all people who are able to make the journey. And whoever chooses to deny this, let them know that God is completely free of any need from all the worlds.